Howdy, y'all. I'm still getting used to making videos. Not ready to just have my full face and everything on here yet. But I wanted to do another video here, give you guys a little bit of more of a history of where I had my first incident, encounter, experience, whichever word you prefer to use. I've hunted and hiked, camped all my life, been out in the woods. I love the woods. And of course, when you're younger, I've heard many people, we've all sat around the campfire and told horror stories or listened to them. And when I was younger, I heard many stories and tales around the fire about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, legend, or something that was someone's experience. But when you're little and you're out there sharing them, you don't believe it. And then of course, if you get scared or something, the adults are saying, oh, it's just a story, don't worry about it. And then when as you get older and you keep hearing things, you start to wonder, maybe there's something to all these stories and legends. But I'm hard-headed, and I still didn't believe, even though a lot of people that I knew and family I trusted told me that they had experiences, seen something out in the woods. And I just scratched it up to misidentification, or the fact that when we're afraid and it's dark, or even if you have a good view of daylight but you're in thick woods and you can't make things out real clear away, that fear can take control of your mind, and then you start to make shapes and recognitions out of the shadows in the night, or shapes deeper in the woods. And our minds, when we're afraid, start trying to fill in the blanks of why we feel that fear. And so that's what I always rounded it up to. But after you'd think actually after some of the experiences I was told, and actually some evidence I was shown in my younger days, I would have said, yeah, there's something to it, there's something out here. But I always still said, nope, I gotta see it with my own eyes, or somebody throw a carcass out there and let me look at it. But my first run-in, I went out when I was, I think it was, I was 15, maybe almost 16, and was out on some family land, just out hiking. Always took a gun, and most of the time I always had my dog with me, one of them anyhow. And my dogs have always been bigger breeds. I prefer Rottweiler, Pit Bull, German Shepherds, even had a Siberian Mastiff once. Them things are pretty aggressive, but not all that easy to take care of in a small house with a bunch of kids when the kids want to ride one, but that's a different story. But anyway, none of my dogs have ever been afraid when we've come across wolves or bears. They'll growl, they'll have some aggression, but I've never had any that I've worked with, trained, tuck tail. Of course, I would have never let none of them after the full-grown mountain lion or bear, but they never would back down if we had an incident where they could smell them, see them. But this particular day, my pit started to cower. She started whimpering and didn't want to go any further, and that was a little strange. And it was enough that I thought that maybe she was sick or something. So I was about to turn back to where I left the four-wheeler and head back down, and then heard a deer distress, And I thought, that's real strange. It's not hunting season, and there shouldn't be nothing up here. And what got me though for thinking hunting season though is the noises I heard, and then it was almost like a loud bang. It wasn't quite a rifle or a gun, but it's that noise you can if you take a nice thick wood branch and slam it against a tree, it has that sound. It's not quite a gunshot sound by no means, but that loud, and how it hits your ear, you're thinking a weapon. And I heard something like that right after I heard the deer distress. And we've had issues on that particular spot of land with poachers, and few of them setting foot traps up, and so I wasn't real sure what happened, and it sounded close. So I just wanted to check, and I had to pull my dog with me. She didn't want to go that way. She kept again, tail tucked, whimper, and complete just scared. And as we came over the next little hill, probably not even, I shouldn't even say hill, but it wasn't maybe another 20 yards we walked. I was at I guess you'd say I say hill, but probably more like a mound. Just higher up of a lot of dead log brush right there that I got up on top of to get a better view. And maybe 75 yards or so out in front, I see what clearly looks like a black bear and a white-tailed deer on the ground. Looked like it was feeding. But the movement and the way this animal was over the deer didn't really sit right. And then I saw that the deer's front leg was actually in a foot trap too. And so what I was just still at this time thinking, oh, black bear, but found a deer with its foot caught. It took it down, and I wanted to take that trap out, and so I took my 30 rifle off my back and shot around next to the bear. A lot of black bears, they're not real, most of the time they would prefer to leave over a fight. They're not as aggressive as your grizzlies, Kodiaks, other bears, your brown bears even. But this particular time, it just almost, it turned 180 degrees towards me quicker than I've ever could realize. But once it did, I realized that's no bear. And I'm dumbfounded trying to figure out what I'm looking at. And all I can think of is, well, I've been told a lot that there's some wild men that live deep in the woods out here sometimes that don't want to be with civilization, and they get a little wild. And because what I'm looking at is not a bear. I can clearly see knees bent, arms, and no paws on the front. It was, you can clearly make out digits, and on the face it had no snout. You had no definitive features for a bear. There was no ear sticking up, the snout wasn't, no snout whatsoever, extension, and what I looked like from this distance, which probably was a good it's 45 yards or so from me, the facial features looked more human to me than a bear. And my mind's just running, trying to figure out what I'm looking at, what is going on here. I'm afraid, my dog's crying, and so the combination of this, my mind's going through fight or flight mode, just like all of us will in the situation. But I fired another round, and all I could think of, this has to be a person. I mean, I know at the time I was just thinking some wild man out here, really, really hairy for some reason. I mean, everything, it wasn't that long, but it felt like it took an hour to fire that second shot while my mind's just trying to piece together what I'm looking at. Second round, it didn't scare. It actually made more aggression, actually a growl or snarl noise, and then almost a big grin. You can see like the not quite like you'd see with other apes or chimpanzees, where they're able to curl the lips back and they'll show more teeth almost. They say that's their face. When they're startled or they get scared, they show their teeth that way, almost in a smile, but it's more they're afraid, startled. That's kind of expression I can say that I saw that day. But the growl and tone, it almost felt like it vibrated deep down in my chest a little bit, and it started to actually move towards me on all fours, and I'm still have no idea what I'm looking at. And again, my mind's thinking, gotta be a man, gotta be a man. It's still on all fours at this time, and I start hollering, stop, and go, run, something. I can't even remember what words I was saying. I was just young, scared, not understanding what was going on. And it was still coming towards me and my dog after I'm just screaming, hollering. So I lever action the rifle, put 2 rounds, what I firmly believe was probably at least mid-chest. Can't say that I hit for sure with both, but I know I hit once because it fell back, let out a screech in pain, and I thought, alright, then I'm gonna go ahead and chamber another because it's still on the ground moving, and I'm still scared out of my mind. I'm pretty sure if I hadn't been out there that long sweating and didn't have much water, probably would have pissed myself, ain't gonna lie to y'all. But it got up, this time to full 2 legs, bipedal, reached down, grabbed the deer, and with just one arm put it underneath the arm like you'd carry a small dog or something, and ripped the deer from the chain and foot trap, which pretty much broke or ripped the front leg off the deer carcass that was stuck in the trap, and had what was left of the deer under one arm, and ran in the opposite direction on 2 legs with, again, a deer under the arm. And again, this whole incident probably didn't last but maybe a couple minutes. But I'm sure everyone knows, in certain situations of fear or your adrenaline pumping, a few seconds feels like hours, a few minutes feels like days sometimes. I'm sure we've all had an incident, or you guys can understand that. And when I finally collected my thoughts, I still had no idea what I had just seen. At this point, I would thought maybe I had actually shot a person, because at this time I I knew I had seen bear, and I know they could get up on two legs, but they cannot run. They don't have fingers, and they don't pick up a deer carcass, tuck it under an arm, and take off running in a sprinter bipedal motion. It's not possible. So I did what I always did back then when I found traps, and I called the warden. He came out, and he called another warden out, and they took the trap and asked me what happened, what I saw, and I told them what exactly happened to my best memory, and explained to them every little detail I could think of. And there was blood, not just you can clearly tell where the blood from the deer was, but the deer had to have been in that trap for a while, dead. Somebody didn't come get the carcass in time. That creature didn't kill the deer. I believe what had happened, it came across it, and it took a large log, I'm guessing, or branch, slammed it against a tree, maybe to tell others. I believe they do move in family groups to say there's food here. And again, I could be wrong. This is all I have is speculation and my own experiences and things I've noticed over the years. But at the time, I didn't know what that noise was until later on, and I did some more research and talking to people. But anyways, sorry to get off track there, but the deer had been dead for a while, so you don't have any fresh blood from that carcass when that front leg was ripped off. But there was a blood trail, so I believe I hit it at least once. Tried to follow it, but we lost the blood trail. And again, my dog wanted nothing to do with going after that blood trail or wanting to pick it up a scent. It wanted to go in the absolute opposite direction, which was very strange to me. Warden said, "Oh, you must have seen, had to be a bear, and you just got worked up being that close, and your mind played tricks on you." And I told him, "No, I'm telling you, this is exactly what I saw." And he said, "No, son, just trust me. You just saw something. You just got worked up." Well, they convinced me. For a long time, I was convinced they had to be right. But after that incident, I was more open to hearing other people's experiences and what they had seen or knowledge that they have had shared with them. And more that I talked with folks and hearing people that I trust and that were credible to me anyway, and I'm sure several would be credible to others as well. Not going to mention a lot of names, but after this incident, I was more open-minded because the warden did have me convinced that my head must have been playing tricks on me, even though I've shot at bear before, and I've had incidences in the woods at that time with coming across bear, mountain lion. So it was a little strange that this one incident that my mind had apparently played tricks on me and made me think I was seeing something I wasn't. But the warden did have me convinced at the time. What kind of finally made me shake that off and finally firmly believe that no, this was what you saw, this was not misidentification, and it wasn't your mind filling in blanks or fear, was a couple months later. There was a new well drilled on my friend's property, and they had capped it off, and there was a guy staying out there in a trailer with his truck checking pressures and some gauges and other things. I'm not real familiar with all that process, but I was at my friend's home, and we had took his truck and just went up and onto their property, driving and talking. I think at this time his girlfriend had just broken up with him, and he was all hurt and sorry. So I said, let's go for a drive, we'll talk it out or something. Can't remember what it was, but it was, you know, normal high school teenager stuff. And we get by the new road that they had made, graveled into that well location, and so we just turned again. We're driving, and we're talking, and I can't even remember that conversation anymore, but I promise I was probably paying attention to him, I think. But this we get going, and we see this dude's truck fly by us. He's honking, and then he slams on his brake, damn near hit us. We turned around and wondered why he was going so fast, and just completely past having fun and playing. It was dangerous how fast he was going. And he said, the boys, don't go down there, don't go down there. He said, there's something down there. He says, I was in my trailer, my fifth wheel, yeah, it was hooked onto the truck, and I felt something slam against the truck. And then he said, then I felt something on the trailer. He said he looked through a window and saw the face. He said it wasn't a bear, he said it was man-like face. And he had I think he had a .357 revolver in there with him, because a lot of well locations, when they do back home, not in the South, some of them are way back in the middle of nowhere where you need to just keep a weapon just in case. He grabbed it, and he said he fired shots through his trailer walls. He was so scared. And he said next thing he knew, his fifth wheel was shaking from side to side. He heard roars and sounds, and he said it sounded like there was 2 or 3 of these things beating on the side of my fifth wheel. And he said the next thing I know, my fifth wheel, I'm flying in the air in it, and his trailer was put on its side, and it wasn't a very small fifth wheel either. But he said he broke out a window, got in the truck, and took off. He said he looked behind, and he saw something on 2 legs running towards the truck. But this man was scared, and he kept saying, don't go down there, boys, don't go down there. Well, we're teenagers, we have a gun, and we're most men will know when you're at that age, you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. So we decided, yep, we're gonna go down there and see. And we get down there. It's real quiet, no noises, which is kind of weird. No birds, no bugs, nothing, just an eerie silence. It's always real strange when you're in the woods and it's complete silence, because there's always usually some type of noise, whether it's birds or insect. You hear something. But his trailer was on its side. There was pound marks on the side. You could see the holes from where he fired through it. No blood or anything. I don't believe he hit anything, but on some of the dents on the side of his fifth wheel, it looked like hand impressions. And we were just absolutely stumped to know what happened. Couldn't figure it out. He called his grandpa. His grandpa came up, and we stayed at that location waiting for his grandpa. And he was he seen everything, and he got real worried, and he said, boys, now we're gonna get in the truck and we're gonna leave. He says, you guys are following me out, and he says, you don't come back here unless I come with you or you tell me before. And he made his promise, but I'd never seen his grandpa scared like that. And I think it was probably a couple days later, and when I went back over and talked with my buddy and his grandpa, the company came out and to take up the trailer, because this man refused to go pick it up, refused to go back out there, actually quit his job and said he'd never go in the woods again. And he gave his story to wardens and everything. I don't know if the sheriff went out there or not at the time. I can't remember. I apologize. It's been so long. But his grandpa said that he believed it was a Sasquatch, that his dad and grandpa always told him, don't ever get near the man of the woods. They're strong, they're tough, and almost damn near bulletproof, is what he told us he was told when he was a boy. And he said, what I seen there and the evidence, he said there was nothing else out there that could have put this fifth wheel on its side like that and broke the axles on the back. He says no black bear can do that, no mountain lion, there was no equipment or other vehicles there to hit it and do that, and there would have been an impact spot for a truck or dozer, backhoe, anything you can think of, but there wasn't any of that. And the man said his trailer rocked back and forth before it finally ended up on the side, like you could find in a video of, you know, riots where they're flipping cars. There you rock it back and forth before it'll finally go. And that's what he said he was feeling while he was in there. So his grandpa said, that's why I made you guys where I left. And he said, that's why I made sure you boys left with me, and I told you can't go back over there. He says his was always told when he was little, you don't go after and you don't shoot the man of the woods. And he said that he's never seen him himself. He says, I've had some experiences, but he said, I've never seen anything. He said, but I always trusted my grandpa, and I always trusted my dad, and they were honest men, and they weren't afraid of much, but they were serious, and you could see fear in them when they discussed this man of the woods, he said, is what they called him. And he said his dad and grandpa did have experiences and visual sighting of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or what they called the man of the woods. So after that, I told him and my best friend of what happened to me and what the wardens had said not too long ago, because again, after I had that incident, the warden had me convinced I had seen a bear, and that's what I told everybody, that it was a bear. It scared me. My dog was freaked out. It was just really, really strange, but the warden had me convinced I had seen a bear. But after his grandpa and what I seen on that fifth wheel trailer, I told him, this is what I saw, but the warden told me it was just fear and it was a bear. And they believed me, but you know, when you're younger and you don't want to tell a lot of people that, because then they're gonna say, yeah, you're crazy, they'll act like you have the plague, don't want to come around you. And I've always been a firm believer that if somebody shares an experience with me, or their opinion or thoughts or beliefs, I don't have to believe what they're telling me, just like y'all don't have to believe me. But I would always hear them out and consider it's a possibility, and I wouldn't make a judgment on them for their beliefs or what they say they've experienced, because I don't believe it's not fair to them when, if they firmly believe something and they want to share that with you and they're willing to do that you should make a judgment of them. And I've always tried to live by that. But when I was younger, I knew a lot of people, if I said a lot or shared it with many, that it would ruin you know, my friendships, possibly relationships with you know, folks in town. I lived in a real small town with not many people, and so I didn't share much because I didn't want to have that happen. And later on in life, when I've actually shared a little bit more experiences, it did make things a little harder on me, and lost people I thought that were friends because I shared my thoughts and told them, you don't have to believe me, but this is what I believe, and I firmly believe this creature's out there and that I've had experiences. But it's made me really hesitant to share with anybody, and I had a lot of friends and asked me to make some videos on YouTube, share my knowledge, and they said if no one believes you, at least maybe if they ever need the knowledge, it can come in handy. And I've been hesitant, but I decided to try a few videos. And again, I'm not used to making videos. I'm not good with a lot of technology, but I will try to give some better backdrop video to look at while I talk, and maybe I'll be able to feel more comfortable at some point to give full view of me, but or take my GoPro with me out when I go out hunting, hiking. But for now, I'm not there yet, and I don't really know how to work everything. But I just wanted to share a little bit more with y'all and my first experiences. And if you guys leave a like, and if you have questions, comments, please leave them at the bottom, or any tips. I'm more than happy to hear them and try to apply them to the videos I do. Y'all have a good one.